Hello, 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 and welcome to Role Playing GamesCast. This is Tony.
I'm Joe.
And we're here to continue to share our love of everything video games with you. So we're going to start with our first segment.
Side Quests, where we tell you guys about what video games we've been playing other than the one that we're podcasting about.
So, Joe, are you still trying to get viciously mediocre at fighting games?
Well, so for traditional 2D fighting games, the only playing that I did this week was actually with you. For everybody who doesn't know, Tony picked up Street Fighter V and we played with each other a little bit online, and it was a lot of fun.
I've actually played it almost once every other day since I picked it up.
Oh, heck yeah. Is there one person you're sticking with? Or are you still Ryu?
I've just been using Ryu, yeah.
Yeah, Ryu's really good to start with. I think he's intended to teach people how to play the game.
Which makes sense, which is probably why they have you use him in the half-a-second tutorial mission.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I've also been playing a little bit of a game called Rivals of Aether, which is a Smash Brothers, an independently made Smash Brothers clone. My younger brother picked that up, and I grabbed it to play along with him. And that's been really fun. But the one big single-player game that I finally finished in this last week or two was Final Fantasy 15. So Final Fantasy 15 is now the very first Final Fantasy game that I have played to completion.
I forgot about that. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, man. Okay, let's talk about it a little bit. Obviously, we're here to talk about Final Fantasy 6, but I do want to talk about this because I have also beaten that game.
I'm glad I played it because this one has a lot of weird commonalities with Final Fantasy VI.
Interesting.
They both heavily feature Magitech, which I thought was really interesting. Except the explanations for where it comes from are completely different. You're also fighting. I don't know if this is maybe common for every Final Fantasy game, but you're also fighting an evil Imperial force.
Yeah, I think if we ran through all of the Final Fantasies, maybe they're not so explicitly Imperial in design, like these two. But I mean, Final Fantasy. I'm trying to think. Final Fantasy VII, you're fighting. At one point, you're fighting Shinra, which is the government. Every Final Fantasy seems to have some sort of
evil
governmental influence. Yeah.
You never get to play as the evil government.
Well, I mean, we get to play as the evil government at the very beginning of this game for about 10 seconds.
I guess that's actually true. Shoot. Excellent point. Final Fantasy 15 is a weird video game, Tony. It seems unfinished in some places, or at least they didn't...
Okay.
They didn't finish hashing out what it was supposed to be. And I really like the real-time action game kind of combat that they had. But there are certain fights where it feels like you don't have enough control to really do what you want to do.
Which then makes the battles sometimes overly difficult. And I remember there were some battles where I was spamming curatives, spamming curatives.
Yeah. I almost would have, after it was over, almost would have rather lost and gone back again so I could figure out what I was actually supposed to do. Because I only got through it because I was giving myself high ethers or something. Not ethers. What are the ones that restore you, restore your health potential back? Elixirs, that's right.
Okay, yes.
Potions and elixirs. But I always had 40, 50 elixirs with me whenever I would roll out. But yeah, but when you do know what you're doing and you feel like you're in control, the game is very, very fun to play.
And I think it's beautiful.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Being in the car and driving around is so lovely, man.
It is, and I really like that you can listen to the music from the old games. I think that it has, throughout the entire game, I think it has the bones of a really, really good story, even if it's told poorly in some places.
Yes.
But at the very end, the execution finally lives up to the potential. And it's this beautiful, really emotional story at the end. And I really enjoyed that. And I guess if I'm going to talk about specifics, we should warn that there are spoilers upcoming, and maybe we can post a timestamp in the video about when we'll stop talking about spoilers.
Yeah, let's do that, but let's definitely bring it up.
But at the very end, not even the very end, after Altissia, after Luna Freya dies.
Yeah, which I thought was crazy, man. It wasn't early in the game, but I mean, it was what would you say, halfway through maybe?
Yeah, and the whole tone shifts at that point. And every single person in your party has a negative coping mechanism that's entirely believable because their personalities are so obvious to you at that point because they've constantly been talking to you and acting their own way. So when Gladio gets mad at you and Prompto gets really withdrawn and doesn't want to talk, and Ignis is completely in denial about his blindness.
Yeah,
you get this really oppressive sense of melancholy. I haven't seen games don't do that very well very often. So I thought that was really cool. And then the ending of the game is tragic and triumphant at the same time in a way that I thought was really cool. But when you walk in to fight Arden, Noctis has been like timid and afraid of his destiny the whole time. And then he drops like this gravitas-ridden line where he says, "Get out of my chair, Jester, the king sits there." And then from that point on, everything is just lit. It's so good.
Yes,
and then the last campfire scene, like after the credits roll, is so well acted.
Yes.
The voice acting is just perfect. And there are places in the game where it just like is bad. So to see like that ending scene where the execution is so perfect and it's like this really sensitive, subtle like material that they're dealing with, I wish the whole game was that good.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's times in the game where it definitely lags in terms of like pushing the story forward. But I think, it's hard to, with the game, when a game is so open world, it's hard to keep the narrative moving forward at a good pace because you're in charge of moving the narrative forward at that point,
Yeah, it is. It is. That is a problem with open world games.
Yeah, and so like you have to have so much cool stuff happening to make up for the lag in narrative, the narrative moving forward. I think that something I really enjoyed about the game, and it was one of the things I really enjoyed about Final Fantasy XII as well, is the monster hunt thing. Like when you're hunting these monsters.
Yeah.
I love that when you're posting the bills or whatever, and then after the game is done, they add new monsters that are like super high level.
I definitely went to the one where you get the notifications about the earthquakes after the game, and then you find what is it?
Adamantoise?
Yeah. What the heck? He's like the size of like the gods that you would fight.
Right.
In the game, but like level 90 or 99 or something crazy like that. I imagine you've got to grind to like max potential before you can touch him. But there are also dungeons I haven't done yet. And I think I'm at least going to go back and do the dungeons that I haven't finished.
Yeah, I'm actually going to replay the whole game again because I was so excited when I got it, Joe. I got it the day it released. I went to GameStop and I bought it. And I beat it within 4 days.
Oh, wow. Okay. I bought it, played about 10 hours, stopped playing it, and then left it for like a year. And then finally came back to it, and it clicked with me. And then I played it through very, very slowly. But I got all the way through. The very end, I played through in like a really big chunk because, like I said, the very end is exciting, and I really got into it.
What I'm really excited about, and I think it was you and I that talked about this, is that they changed that whole thing where you're trying to sneak around.
Oh, you mentioned, it's like instant death if you get caught in the fortress.
And they patched it out. You told me they patched it out.
Yeah, you get the ring of Lucia, the ring of Lucia.
The ring of Lucia. Yeah.
But you get it immediately, and you can use it to kill those axemen that are chasing you there.
So when I played the game, that was the thing. And so like I had never been so angry in my life probably at a video game because I was like, and not only was it a thing, but it was obscenely long, the amount of time that you spend doing that. And so it's like, okay, I get like maybe a couple of rooms or like maybe 10 minutes of doing this, but to do it for a whole section of game, I was obscenely pissed. I'm really glad that they patched it out.
How long is it? Are you unarmed until you get your dad's sword back from Rivas? Is that from his body? Is that how it works?
It was a pretty long time, man.
Okay. Do you get the Ring of Lucia in the original unpatched version?
You do get it, but again, you're like waiting a long time to get it. Like it's like a long time. Like I remember playing that game for probably a solid hour.
Oh, weird.
That part of it was obscene. It was crazy. But yeah, the game's so much done well in that game, and maybe we'll have to we might have to do like a playthrough of this game at some point, even though we're doing retro stuff. Like it'd be cool to go back and.
Yeah, I actually don't mind expanding the scope of our RPG playing.
I do not either. I think that'd be dope.
Okay, cool. And then a friend of mine, the same friend who gave me the copy of Chrono Trigger that I played through, gave me a copy of Ghost Trick for DS. So I'm going to play that at some point.
Ghost Trick, I've never heard of that.
It's by Capcom, and I think it's supposed to be similar in style to the Phoenix Wright games, if you've ever played those.
No, I've not, but I've seen them.
They're so good. Oh my God, they're so good. Those are like they're only RPGs in like a really loose sense. They're more visual novels, I think, but they're wonderful games.
The other thing I do want to say about Final Fantasy 15 that I think does so well is getting the feeling of this group of humans is a family. Like they really are able to like capture that. It's so well
it's
captured.
Really good. Like I said, I felt it was really weird in a game to like have these poor people reacting really, really negatively and like coping the wrong way, but it made sense and like seemed like it fit their personality styles. Overall, a really good game. I know it gets a lot of criticism, and there are definitely things that it could have done better or things that weren't done well because they were rushed or they didn't have the time. But overall, I love it. Which
is crazy because that game was in development for like
I know
5 or 6 years.
But there's so like when you get the flashback, I think you literally just get a scene of Kingsglaive when your dad dies, and there's so much stuff that you just don't know. I never went and watched Kingsglaive or Brotherhood or any of the stuff. If I play the game again, I probably will go back and watch all of those.
Yeah, I own Kingsglaive because I bought the special edition that came with it or whatever. Yeah. And I didn't watch it for a while. And I watched it, and it's really not a good movie. It does explain some stuff, which is cool. But I'll tell you what's cool, man, is it is the best CGI I've ever seen on film in my entire life, and I've not seen anything better since. So for me, I've got 2 pieces of things to talk about here. So I had not played Persona 5 in a while. Like I get like weird. I do the same kind of thing that you do where I kind of get uninterested or whatever. And so I'm like trying really hard to finish stuff. But like I had purchased, they just released the Dot Hack. Did you ever play any of the Dot Hack games?
No, never. I'm aware of them, but I've never tried them.
All right, so I played a couple of Dot Hack games like as a kid, and then they released a remaster, and I misinterpreted. I didn't realize there were 2 separate series of Dot Hack. Like there's the original Dot Hack, and there's like Dot Hack GU, which is a different world. And so I got that thinking it was the original, and it wasn't. But it's still pretty good. And so like my thing is like, okay, I think I'm going to go alphabetically through my games list and just play them.
Alphabetically, okay. So you're doing the dots first because it's not in the alphabet. Okay.
And it's cool. It's it's a JRPG. The combat system is fun. It's the story is cool. I think for me that game has a little bit too much exposition where like I feel like every 10 seconds I'm watching a freaking cutscene, and that can really while that does provide a lot of information, that can really slow down the pace of a game. But yeah, so that's the game that I'm playing right now in terms of like when I'm not playing Final Fantasy 3/6. Here's the thing I do want to talk about. So, and this is going to sound gimmicky and judge me all you want. So I went to my buddy Brandon's house. And he has PlayStation VR.
Oh, shoot. We're going to wind up talking about this too. But please go on.
I loved it, man. And I was like, man, I really want to get it. But it's so expensive because to get the whole kit, because you need like the headset, you need the camera, you need the PlayStation Move controllers, right? And all of that kit. And if you get you can get one with a game, and it's like $350.
And on top of that, like apparently it works better with PS4 Pro than it does with the PS4. I tried out PSVR at a friend of mine's house as well last week. And he had super hot VR. It is insane. Like for me, that was like the moment VR seemed amazing to me instead of gimmicky.
Well, my buddy, his wife is a manager at GameStop.
Okay, nice.
I bought PlayStation VR. So
nice.
I got the headset, the camera, 2 Move controllers. I got the aim controller. I got 2 games. And
what did you get?
The camera. I got Doom.
Okay.
And Eve. I got all that for under $300.
Oh, that's amazing. You got like the employee discount or something?
Yeah, she gave me the manager discount.
Hell yes. That's so you should get Res when you get a chance.
I played a little bit of Res, but I want to get super hot, man.
It's so good. It's so good, Tony.
I'll tell you what I'm playing right now that's amazing is this game called Moss.
Oh, I haven't heard of it.
Okay, so it's basically like you're playing through a fairy tale, and like it's not first person. It's it's a platformer, but you're like a god that's controlling this little mouse, and it is beautiful, and the story is amazing, and it's oh my god, I can't stop playing it. It's so cool. I play a little bit of this Eve. Eve is tough for me, man, because I get motion sick very easily, especially like on boats and stuff. And so like I'm still getting my VR legs, if you will. And this game is like you're like first person pilot of a ship, but you can't control the rotation in terms of like the orientation upside down to right side up. Huh. It does it automatically. And so there's times that it'll spin upside down and my stomach is like, what is going on? And so it's a cool game, but I feel like it would be just a little bit better if I could control my orientation on the screen. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's still very, very cool. And then the other thing me and my buddy Brandon played, he came over and we played a little bit of, we probably played an hour and a half of Resident Evil 7 in VR.
I am too much of a baby for that. Because my friend showed me a little bit of that, and I'm just, I think I'm too much of a baby for it.
I'm a big chicken, and I played the original, like the demo for 7 when it came out, because I love Resident Evil. I played a lot of Resident Evil. Yeah. In fact, we're going to talk about later in my video game news section. But I played a little bit of the demo, not in VR. Like, when it came out, I was like, this game is terrifying. I played like 10 minutes of it. I was like, too scary. And then I have a bad parent who lent me PlayStation Resident Evil 7. I was like, all right, forget it. We're going to play it, man. So he started it and I played afterwards. And so he's like, he got pretty scared. And then I put it on, but there was no jump scares in his portion. I had a couple of jump scares in my portion.
Right.
And it was so I can't describe to you how scared I was. I'm like screaming obscenities and jumping backwards on the couch. Like it's so scary, man. It's like you're there.
Oh, man.
But PSVR is very cool. I think it's very new, and I think they're still figuring it out. But I think there's a couple of games that are starting to get it. And I think that as those companies understand the product and understand...
Superhot was definitely one of those for me. That was one where it just felt like the game was more fun because of VR. And it seemed like it was designed specifically. There is a Superhot non-VR, and that game's amazing in its own right, and you should play it. But the VR version is very much designed in a way that it's fun to play in VR. Like, you have to hold the Move controller up and like look down the sights of the gun that you're using. And you're like weaving your head and your body in and out of bullets as they're shooting at you. It's cool. It's really cool.
Dude, that's amazing. It sounds like I need to get that immediately.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. I don't think it's expensive. It's probably like a $20 game or something.
I think that's what it is. So I'll get that. And I also got Farpoint, which is supposed to be very good. So I'm going to try that out. But yeah, so that's what right now I'm exploring PlayStation VR. And the other cool thing about the helmet is when you put it on, if you're not playing in VR, you can still play everything and not VR. It's like you're sitting in a movie theater. Like the screen looks that big.
The next section is video game news. What's happened in video game news either this week or since the last time we did the podcast. And we did our last podcast in the middle of E3, I think after EA and Microsoft had done theirs.
Yes.
So we missed everything from Sony and Nintendo and everybody else. But the main bit of news I wanted to get to is Super Smash Bros. For the Switch. There is a new Smash Bros. Coming out. It's not just a port of the Wii U version, and it's bringing every single character that has been in the Smash Bros. Game. So I am quite excited for that.
Yeah, man.
I think we might wind up getting a dock at work, like a Switch dock at work, so we can play. Yeah,
dude, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited. Who was the new character? Ridley was the big new character, like from the Metroid games. What is Ridley? An alien for sure, but like what design-wise?
I don't know. Definitely a pterodactyl looking.
But there's also a new Elder Scrolls game coming out.
Yes, they teased Elder Scrolls 6. I was so excited.
I don't know when. Like, that could be 5 years away. Who knows? But it is happening.
I think that it is a long time away.
Yeah.
But Bethesda's really smart, man, in the way that they release stuff. So they're releasing Fallout 76 this year, which just looks so good. Like, it looks so good, Joe. Like, I'm really, really excited about this game. Because I love Fallout 4. I played so much Fallout 4.
Nice. Okay.
I beat the game 3 times.
I have that for PC, and I haven't played it yet.
It's really good, man. Of the ones that I've played, it's been my favorite. So I'm really, really excited.
Oh, cool.
Bethesda is just so good. Everything they touch, everything they touch is not gold, but everything they touch is a high quality game. I think the only thing I've really not played from Bethesda is I did not play Prey, which was their space horror game.
And that's on sale on Steam right now. I've thought about grabbing it a couple of times, but yeah, I've heard good things. Yeah,
I've heard good things too, but it just seemed it didn't blow up. You know what I mean? It just kind of existed. But I heard that it's a very good game.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
So for me, my news also comes from E3 because post E3, there's not been a lot of news. I've been looking or whatever. I'll tell you the thing that I was kind of most excited about to kind of call back here, and that is Capcom is releasing a remaster of Resident Evil 2.
That's right. Yeah, I think that was at Sony's conference, right?
Yes. The amount of Resident Evil 2 I played as a kid, that was one of the kind of perennial games in my library. And I think I probably beat the game about 15 times. Yeah, because there were so many things you could do. Like if you beat the game in this and met these conditions, you could unlock Hulk. And there was one where you could unlock a block of tofu that you played as.
What?
Yeah, you play as a block of tofu. And I don't remember what the conditions were, but I mean, I would try and every time beat my runs. And there was one time I beat the whole game in like 4.5, 5 hours or something like that. Like, I could play it in one day. And so like I was obsessed with that game. And to think that it's going to come out in a new format, it just to me is very excited. And, and I think that everybody's capitalizing this on this right now, where we have this thing where we're like, these old games were re-releasing them and remastering them. You know, so we just had Crash Bandicoot, and then and coming in the fall, we're going to get a remaster of Spyro the Dragon.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's very cool, man. And I'm so excited about that. And I just remember, you know, there's just such a nostalgia there. And just to think about how they're going to treat this game that is such a quintessential part of my video game childhood, you know, but it's going to look like it was made today.
Yeah, I've never played a Resident Evil game.
I've played almost all of them. So, like, I did not play 1 because when Resident Evil 1 came out, my mom was like, "You're not playing those kinds of games." I was like, "Cool." But when Resident Evil 2 came out, she had very much backed off on that life view. And so I played 2, I played 3, I played 4, I played 5, I played 6. I played the first-person one that was on PlayStation 1 or 2. I can't remember what it was called. It was mediocre. I played Code Veronica X. I've played now 7, a little bit of 7. So I've played a lot of the Resident Evil games.
Yeah, it might have something to do with me being a huge baby in regard to horror games.
No, man, I'm a huge baby too, and for whatever reason, I'll do it.
Like, I played Bloodborne, but like even that is a little scary to me. So good video games coming up.
Now we're going to our next segment, which is The Grind.
That's right. The Grind is where we talk about what we've been doing in our lives that isn't video game related. Hopefully how we've been improving ourselves, but we'll see.
Shall I kick it off or shall you?
Sure. Launch into it.
All right. So I've got a couple things to talk about. This is the topic for today that I'm most excited about. So something that I've been doing in my life. So I got this book when I was just at UNF teaching at their music camp, which is where Joe and I went to school. It's where we met.
That's right.
And so I went back this year to teach at their music camp, which was an amazing experience. And just I love that place and I love those people. And it was awesome. So one of the days I had a lot of hours around the lunchtime to kind of do my own thing, and I would score study or just kind of read or whatever. And I forgot my favorite book at home, which is a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***. And it's really outstanding. And if you've not read it, you need to read it. It is life-changing. So I bought this other book there called Adulting.
Interesting.
And obviously, like I'm the ripe age of 30, so I am legally an adult, right? But sometimes I feel like I'm a really bad adult. Like I'm really bad at being an adult. Like really bad. I bought this book hoping like, oh, maybe I'll pick up, even if it's like a couple of things that I can add to like my daily life routine to make me a better human. Like it's worth the $10 or whatever the book is, you know? And so there was this thing about thank you notes in there. I am ashamed to say I've never, not once, written a thank you note in my entire life.
Oh, interesting.
And she made a really big deal about it. It's Adulting. The author is Kelly Williams Brown, and she makes a really big deal about the thank you note thing and how like the thank you note is the spirit animal of this book or whatever. So while I was there, you know, some of the professors took me out to dinner, and the new conducting professor gave me a lot of her time to talk about score study and conducting. And then you have all these rehearsal assistants that are spending time constantly like really trying to help you and make sure that the rehearsals go smoothly and stuff. And so I went to Target and I bought like a bunch of thank you notes, and I wrote all of these people thank you notes.
Oh, that's great.
And it was amazing. I felt so good afterwards. I was like just the process of writing these notes and just working through my gratitude in a way that's written down and not just perceived in my mind was like very refreshing and very helpful. And I felt like people were like, wow, what is this? Like, it's like a thank you note. Like, you know, people were really open and really appreciative, and I felt good. And, you know, and so now like I've got all these thank you notes, like I'm keeping thank you notes on hand. That way, every time, you know, somebody goes out of the way to do something for me, I can like write them a thank you note, you know?
Right.
Which was just cool. So like I'm a thank you note person now is what I'm trying. I'm like a 90-year-old grandma is what I'm trying to tell you. That's
great. So I can expect one at the end of this podcast.
100%. Every podcast I will just be mailing you a thank you note.
Just like handwritten calligraphy in my mailbox every week.
Well, just so you know, my handwriting is piss poor, so it's kind of like a 12-year-old is writing you a thank you note. just with slightly better like vocabulary, I guess.
Oh man.
Okay.
Did I take a junior high kid out to dinner this week? What is this? Oh man. That's interesting. This wasn't on my like planned list of things to talk about for the grind, but like I've been off and on reading this is called How to Be an Imperfectionist. Okay. And it talks a lot about the ways that people in a perfectionist mindset beat themselves up and actually prevent themselves from doing things as well as they can.
Yeah.
Because they're so worried about how what they're doing is perceived by other people that they don't do.
Yeah.
And it's been a message that I've needed to hear, and it's helped me be kinder to myself.
That sounds similar to a message that the subtle art of not giving a is also selling.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of overlap there, because ultimately I think they are trying to drive home the same thing, that if you don't do things because you're worried about what you're doing being perceived as perfect, then you'll never get better at anything.
Right. That and like then. Not only do you have that thing of like, it's like that crippling fear of, hey, I'm not going to attempt this idea, or I'm not going to attempt this project because it's not going to be perfect. But then on the back half of that is when you do attempt the project and you do attempt the idea and it's not perfect, then you receive no joy from it, because all you're doing is just analyzing and overanalyzing, and you're not feeling the joy that you should feel from doing the thing that you took a risk to do.
You don't feel any gratitude or empathy for, like, I don't know if empathy is the right word. You don't feel any gratitude or kindness towards yourself. And that's a really toxic place to be.
It is. And I found that, like, the most amount of that I felt that was in my teaching. Like, we would play a concert and I wouldn't feel joy because I was like, this is everything that went wrong.
Right.
Instead of enjoying what it was in that moment, it's like, this moment, this is what we're doing, and there's nothing that can be done to change it now. So enjoy it. Right.
And one of the things the book that the How to Be an Imperfectionist talks about is setting binary goals instead of like these weird goals where you're worried about the quality of what you're doing. Your goal is just to do the thing.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this book is talking about too. It's like the same book, man. And
it is.
Only there's a lot of curse words in this book. But
less cursing in the one I'm reading. Okay, so you're reading like the adult version of the book that I'm reading.
Yeah, I'm reading the grown-up version of your little tween magazine. I don't know what you're doing over there. But like, and what he calls it is metrics. So he calls it like the goals, I guess goals or metrics, but it's like the way that you measure success. So success, instead of being, hey, this turned out good, we measure the success via, hey, I did it.
Right. Hey, did I take a risk and put myself out there and get something done?
So instead, even like something minute, like I'm doing a lot of practicing now, trying to get my chops up so that I can play a little bit more often during the school year and make some money, just gigging or whatever. Because I have the ability, I just need to develop some things in my playing, I think. And so the goal, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to transcribe this solo by blah, 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 instead I go, okay, today I'm just going to transcribe some solo. And if I do that, that is success for me.
Yeah, that's great.
I think it's wild that we're like reading the same kind of book and trying to achieve.
We are, although I'm less sure what I should be applying it to. I have like things that I want to do related to my professional life and getting better at the field that I'm in.
Yeah.
But as far as hobby things, besides this podcast, I'm still kind of trying to figure out what my hobbies are and what I do now that I'm like not going to school and working at the same time. Maybe like a little. This has some overlap with side quests, but I've been doing the Art Academy Studio game for Wii U.
Okay.
And learning a little bit about the fundamentals of drawing. My wife is an artist, so I've always been kind of curious about that. So I'll
which I think is so cool.
Yeah, she's really good. But I haven't been an artist, so it's not something that I'm familiar with. So I'm trying to learn some basics.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's really, really cool. I dig that. I'm so flabbergasted by the fact that we're reading the exact same book by two different people.
Yeah, it's really, really crazy. But it sounds like the message is literally the exact same.
Yeah, exact thing. And it's such an important message. And I think it's more important now than it ever has been. Because I think that what we're talking about is such a source of anxiety for people. And so the reason, like, I think one of the reasons our levels of anxiety and those kinds of things are so high in society right now is because of exactly what we're talking about. We like have this demand to be perfect and everything has to be incredible. And if someone calls us mediocre, that's like the most insulting thing they can say to you. And
everything you do is so, and I don't know that the books touch on this, but like everything somebody does is like available for the world to look at. And I wonder if that's why people are so much more anxious and sensitive about what they're doing. Because they immediately can compare themselves to whoever is the best at it.
Right. Or like even your friends, like, oh, look at this thing that my friend did, and I tried to do it, and I was not successful at it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we have that constant comparison trap, which again is like the idea of this book here is like.
Oh, I know. No, that's a really good point because I used to love to draw when I was a little kid. Like a little kid in elementary school. I probably spent more time drawing than anything else, and I wasn't great at it, but I loved to do it. And I can remember being in like kindergarten or preschool And there was this girl in my class, I think her name was Jennifer. She was so good at coloring. And it made me feel bad about what I was doing, which is not her fault, but like it's a trap that people can fall into very easily. And I guess you don't really have to learn it. It's just it's great. It's important to learn not to prevent yourself from doing things you like just because you're comparing yourself to other people.
Right. And comparison yields no result. Like nothing ever good comes from that.
No, I don't think so. I mean, if you want to improve, it's good to see what other people are doing and learn. But you need to be in a mindset where you're learning from people and appreciating what they're doing and not like using it as something to beat yourself up with.
Right. That's good, man. That's good. That's cool that we're reading the same kind of book.
I know, it's wild.
Basically drinking the same coffee, reading the same book, drinking the same bourbon.
Tony and I are drinking like the same coffee right now. This wasn't planned. We were both drinking Basil Hayden the last time we recorded an episode. And apparently we're reading like two versions of the same book. So that's some weird stuff. Not planned.
This is 0% planned, folks. Maybe
we're in matching outfits right now in different states. I don't know.
We probably are not, but the other thing I want to talk about was I had this really funny experience. So it's been, how long has it been since we recorded? Like a month?
I don't think it was it 2 or 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went on this date because we're going to talk about this all the time. And the craziest, this is the craziest date story I've ever had in my life. Okay. We're out, and this is many, many weeks ago, and like I only went on one date with this person because she obviously, when something like this happens, you're like probably not going to hang out with that person again. And so like we're just talking, and she's like, we're talking about our family, and this is like the first time I'd ever seen this human being ever, and she's like, yeah, guess where my parents are from?
Okay.
Or no, sorry, I'm sorry. Guess where my parents live?
Interesting.
And I was like, throwing out some things because she had told me where she was from. And she's like, and then halfway through, she goes, never mind, I don't want to play this game. It's a terrible game. And I was like, okay. And doesn't that strike you as odd?
Did she tell you where her parents lived after she started that game?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
And so I was like, okay. I was like, that's weird that you think it's a weird game that you started, but that's all right. You try to be understanding. And she goes, yeah, it's weird because both of my parents are dead.
Wait. Hold on. Whoa. That was, I'm on a ride right now. Hold on.
This is real.
Hold on. Give me a second. So I'm assuming that she knew her parents were dead and she didn't find out in the middle of this conversation with you because that would change things a little bit.
She knew her parents were dead.
So if she had just found out and maybe she glanced down at her phone and then looked at you and said, oh, my parents are dead, which is concerning in its own way. But she knew her parents were dead and decided she'd set you up with a game where you would guess where her parents lived. And then she could go, ha, no, they're in the ground. Is that what her plan was?
That's what the plan seemed to be. And she's like, yeah, after I started the game, I realized it wasn't a good idea. I was like, really?
In maybe in her defense, she did realize it wasn't a good idea.
She knew right? She knew they were dead before we started the game. It's not like she figured out, hey, that's right, they're dead. I forgot they're dead. No, she knew they were dead. And I was like, at what point were you going to try and, funnel me into that direction? Like, what clue were you going to give me? Like, they live south. Like Miami? No, way more south than that. Like,
oh boy.
Yeah, man.
What was it like after that? Did she just like awkward silence for the rest of the date?
No, it was fine. Like, because I'm like, I feel like I'm a sociable person, so I can like interact with humans or whatever. But like, I was like, I have to get out of this situation pronto.
Okay.
Because that's a weird game to play.
It is. I'm very sorry to hear about her parents. If you meet her again, you can tell her that I said that. And that is the grind. Our next section is the discussion of the game that you're all here for, and I hope some of you are actually playing. This week, we're going to be talking about the gameplay section from the end of last week's episode, where your three parties are reunited in Narshe, up until the end of a flashback to the Esper world. This section of gameplay picks up back in Narshe, where you and your party, now everybody back in the same place, and with Bannon, are trying to convince the village elder of Narshe to help you guys fight the Empire.
Yes.
Which doesn't... It's not a difficult task because the Empire then invades. I think Locke shows up just in time to say, hey, the Empire's here. And then the Empire's there. So I don't know how much good Locke actually did, but he does show up with Celes.
Yes, she does. And so the siege, man, that it was for me a little bit difficult.
Yeah, and I've got some complaints about the way the gameplay works there. But beforehand, there was a really good scene that I thought was cool where Cyan is like really raw about Celes and Terra being in your party because they're both former Imperials one way or another. But one thing that I thought was awesome is that apparently Celes has the moniker the Decimator of Miranda.
Yes.
Which is kind of badass in like an Attila the Hun kind of way, I guess. But she's good now.
Yeah, and it just kind of like adds to the level of depth there, and like it's like, okay, this person is making a change, but it also makes you question their character a little bit too.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like not probably, but months ago she was slaying people in a town.
I guess so, yeah. And you do get to go to Miranda later, but it was an interesting scene. And everybody's kind of working together more out of necessity than out of any kind of real trust right now. Yeah. But that battle, the battle in Narshe where you're defending is weird. And it's similar to that battle with the Mughals in the cave. You split up into 3 parties and you have to defend, I think the whole point of it is to defend Bannon, right?
Yes, which again is very cool because that's a mechanic that they've already taught us.
Right. Yeah. You were definitely prepared for that with the cave. Yeah. And the way that I did it right off the bat, I only had to do this once. I didn't die, but I burned through like almost all my freaking curatives. I split. I can't remember what my party setup was, but I had the 3 people like go to different what I thought were choke points.
That's exactly what I did.
And the situation that I got in and the place where I thought this wasn't super well designed was where the soldiers would stack up on me, where there would be like a line behind one person. And I would need to heal. Yeah. And I would need to heal one of the other parties. And you can't switch between the parties in the menu when you're looking through your items. You have to exit the menu and then hit the button to switch parties.
And hope that party that you need to heal is the next one in the rotation.
Yeah. And on top of that, this is all in it's all in real time. Time is there's no way to do it instantaneously. Time passes for every button press.
Right.
And it takes a little time for the screen to load. So if there are soldiers stacked up behind one party, you can't get to the other one and then bring up the menu and heal them in time.
Right.
It was really frustrating. And if they just let you switch parties in the menu, it wouldn't be an issue at all. But I took issue with that. But I got through it. You fight your way. You win when you fight your way down to Kefka. And you have, I think, it's your first actual fight with Kefka, right?
You sort of fight him earlier, right? In the Doma camp?
Oh, geez, I can't remember. Do you?
I think you have a little bit. It might not be that, because there's like a difference between like kind of the story-based fight, which is like the Kefka sprite from the game, and then the actual fight, which is the different Kefka, like the larger Kefka sprite, like you'd fight an actual boss enemy. Okay,
interesting. I think, this is the first time you get their, like, the boss sprite.
Yeah, the boss. Yeah. There were so many soldiers, man, and they were powerful.
Yeah. They do a lot of damage, and you have to burn through a lot of curing magic. And I didn't realize, or curing magic or curative items, I was assuming that the game would end when one of your parties died.
No, it comes back.
I didn't realize until the very end that they died and you can go back and then go back in. And there are definitely situations where like it's the smarter play just to let your party die, heal them up, and bring them back down. I think I actually burned through more items trying to keep everybody up.
And I just learned to keep whatever the strongest curative item is at that point of the game. I just keep 100 on hand, man.
Yeah, I didn't go that far. I usually have like 30 or 40 of the tonics, and then I had like 15, like 10 potions typically, which is almost enough.
I was sitting on 100 potions.
By the end of this episode, the game gets to a point where it makes a lot more sense just to cure with magic, but we're not there yet.
Yes. But the siege on Narshe, very cool. You drive Kefka out. Then what happens is really cool, and that is Terra, again, interacts with that Esper. And
the Esper is still frozen in like a block of ice, I think.
Yes.
Right, yeah, and then it flashes. It almost knocks all your other party off a cliff, but doesn't murder them the way that it did Biggs and Wedge.
Yes, they were not murdered.
May they rest in peace. I keep thinking about that girl with her parents, man. What is that?
I know, man. I know. And if I'm going to be honest with you, I know we're going back to this right now. I said to her, I swear to God, I said it out loud to her face. I was like, I cannot wait to tell everybody I know this story.
Oh, man.
I knew I was never going to see this person again. I was like, this is a crazy story. I'm going to tell everybody.
Wow.
So back to Tara.
Yeah. But yeah, the Esper turns. This is a ridiculous scene. It's cool in some ways, but also freaking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Tara turns into some kind of like weird purple Super Saiyan and takes off into the sky and is gone. And that's what happens. And understandably, the party is in shock.
Understandably, without question. Yes. And so obviously they're like, we got to find her.
Right. They've got to find her. I think they know generally that she headed off like towards the west. And Figaro Castle is the way that you can get there. I guess there are some mountains that your little sand submarine castle can go underneath. Yep. So you go that way. And this is the first time in the game where I encountered, and you'll know this better than I do, Tony, haven't played it before, the fact that you get like story elements based on who is or is not in your party in certain places.
Yes.
Because there is a really, really good scene if you show up in Figaro Castle and you have both Edgar and Sabin in your party at the same time. You get this scene where Sabin goes into the throne room and sits, and he like recalls when his dad died, and he and Edgar, after his death, go up to the roof of the castle and they talk about like what they would want to do versus what they're supposed to do based on like their dad's dying wish. And they flip a coin, and I guess it wound up being tails because they decided to do what they want, which means that Edgar stayed and like ruled Figaro because he wanted to, while Sabin went and got really good at karate, which is what he really wanted to do.
I didn't have Sabin and Edgar in my party, so I did not get that scene.
Do you know what scene I'm talking about? Have you seen it before?
Yes, because I've seen it before, and now I'll go and refresh my memory and look it up on YouTube.
But it was really good. They played that same like really sad rendition of the Figaro Castle scene through it. But it's made me realize like, oh crap, there are really good like character development items that I will miss if I don't know what to do. But it seems like the game gives you cues because I didn't have Edgar in my party initially. I only had Sabin, and when you get to the castle, Sabin says, hey, I've got something I'm going to do, and he leaves your party and runs off. So I kind of had a suspicion that I should come back with Edgar too.
Oh yeah, and I did not do that because I'm done.
But you take Figaro Castle, you go under the mountains, you get to the first town there. I can't remember the name of it.
Is it Culligan?
Is that the town where if you have Locke, you find out about Rachel?
Yes.
Yeah, and this is another one of those things where I don't think you get this information if you don't have Locke in the party.
But with this one, though, you can go back later with Locke in the party and experience that scene.
Okay.
Because that's what I did.
Which tells me I probably need to take a Gao and go back to that house in the north, which I haven't done yet.
I have not done that, but that's legit, too. Yeah, that's definitely something to do.
But Locke is, the story there is Locke traveled into like a cave to look for treasure with his girlfriend, Rachel, at the time. She pushed him off a bridge that was collapsing, and she fell down and she got amnesia. And her parents were understandably a little mad at Locke about that.
Yeah, sure.
And she didn't remember him and told him to leave. And then you find out that she died in an Imperial attack, but somebody says that she remembered him at the end. She didn't die.
And then they're keeping her alive.
That's right. I almost forgot about this because it's so weird. You hear that she perished in an Imperial attack at the end of that story, but then you walk into this like really weird herbalist. Like I said, either an herbalist or a drug dealer. I don't know, but his house. He has Rachel's body or something there saying that she's in suspended animation. So I'm assuming that you'll come back and bring her to life somehow. Yeah, that's weird. It explains a lot about Locke's character, though, because he's constantly like concerned about Celis and Tara. And if he promises...
And hates the Empire.
And if he promises he'd have done something for them after something has happened, he seems to feel a lot of guilt. I still don't understand what kind of herbs could have brought somebody who was murdered back. But I mean, this is Final Fantasy. It's a Phoenix Down, I guess. But
I was about to say,
never mind. It's probably a Phoenix Down. Anyways.
And those are expensive.
They are. So really, it's money keeping her alive.
It is just like anything else in the world. Oh, I'm not editing that story out. That story's staying in.
You find out from the people in the town that Tara did land there. I think she like blew up some dude's house when she hit it. But she wandered to the south. Yeah, you wandered to the south. I think this is Collingen. No, this is Jador. Collingen is where we were just now. You go down to Jador.
Yes.
And find out that this is a town full of rich people. All the poor people live out in the mountains in a town called Zozo.
Yep.
So you head to Zozo, and Zozo is a freaking trippy place. I still don't understand what was supposed to be. What is going on there? If you understand,
it's like a leper colony, man.
No. But why are all these people saying all the weird things about time?
Oh, okay. So that's like a thing. So there's a place that you go into, and there's a clock that if you set the right time on the clock, you get a weapon for Edgar.
Oh shoot! I didn't do that.
Yeah, and so they keep saying stuff about time. So you're supposed to use process of elimination because everybody in Zozo is a liar.
One person said the seconds, they're divisible by 20. And then they say all these weird things. Oh, shoot. But everything they're saying is a lie.
Yeah, and so you have to then filter all that out and come up with the right time. Or go on the internet and it tells you what the right time is.
Right. Oh, no, that's actually pretty cool. Okay. I do remember there being somewhere that says everybody in this town is a liar.
Yes.
Okay, cool. But Zozo is a really weird place. A leper colony is maybe a good way to describe it. Everyone will fight you. You make your way up to the top of the tower, and then you fight a dude there. You make your way up. I'm still trying to remember. You fight a boss before you get into the tower, which was really, really weird.
Dadaluma, I think. Dadaluma?
Yeah, I have no idea who he is or why you have to fight him. He definitely says, I don't want to fight you, and then you fight him. But then again, everybody in that town's supposed to be a liar, so I guess I hate fighting, so I better let you pass, and then it starts the boss fight. But you get in there, and you find Tara on a bed there with an old man whose name I can't remember right now. I think it was Rama.
Oh, yeah, Rama. Yeah,
Rama, who identifies himself as an Esper. You get a little bit of backstory here. You find out that the Espers originally lived in the same world as humans after the War of the Magi. They created the Esper world and relocated there. And the Empire's been collecting them to drain their magic and trying to get to the Esper world to collect more of them. And he says that Tara is not an Esper, which is interesting because after what happened to her, you assume she is. He says, no, she's something different.
Yes.
And then indicates that you might be able to get the information that you need to bring her back if you go to the Imperial Research Facility where his friends are being kept.
Yes.
And then the dude straight up blows himself up so you can use his power. Which
is awesome. And this is our first experience with Magicite.
That's right, yeah. And the game really changes at this point, which is cool because
it does, and I love it. I love it so much that you can give any piece of magic to anybody on the party.
Yeah, it makes the game super customizable.
Yes.
Because each one of these Magicites has a list of spells that you learn as you have it equipped. And then they might even have secondary effects that only take place when you level up. Any Magicite, if you have it equipped, the person who has it is going to be learning the spells while they're gaining experience. And the speed at which they learn the spells is dependent on the Magicite. But they also sometimes have special effects, like every time you level up, you'll get an extra 10% HP.
Yes.
Or something like that. I think it's an extra 10% on what you would have gained. I don't know if it's 10% on what you have. That would be a lot.
It's 10% on what you would have gained.
Okay, yeah.
So if you would have gained 10 HP, you're going to gain 11 instead.
Right. Or like magic. Like I think I gave the one that gave the magic boost to Celis right off the bat. But it's cool. It lets you really customize your characters, and here's a struggle I was having. I really like Locke as a character in this game, but he was almost freaking useless in my party. Like I was getting ready. I was ready to kick him out. And then after I got the Magicite, like I started giving him spells, and now he's actually useful. I think he's basically my secondary healer now.
Yeah. And so for me, because I'm a grinder, I'm like, okay, I'm giving everybody every spell.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, you're getting like completionist about it.
Yeah, like that's how I get. Okay. So like
you're going to be so overpowered at the end then.
I know. I love that. I love that.
All right. Fine.
It makes me so happy on the inside. So like we have not really talked about this. We didn't talk about it last time either. But how many hours have you logged, and what level are your characters? What's your main party? Who's your group?
Okay, I'm a little bit past like the section of gameplay that we're covering in this episode, so I'll be a little over leveled. But for most of this section, my main party was Locke, Cyan, Sabin, and Celis.
Okay.
And looks like Cyan is level 22, Sabin's 21, Locke is 19, and Celis is, I can't see her right now for reasons that we'll mention later.
Okay, so my party was Terra, Locke, Cyan, and Sabin. And so I switched out Locke, and now it's Terra, Edgar, Cyan, and Sabin because I got that dope tool for whatever. Terra is 22, Edgar is 18, Cyan is 24, Sabin is 24.
Okay, cool. Well, Terra, you can't use Terra for most of the game that we're talking about right now.
Right, but as soon as you get her back, I popped her back on the party.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. She seems like kind of the main character, so it would make sense too.
Yeah, she does, but I like that you don't have to have her in there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of, like I said, you can customize a lot about what you're doing, and I appreciate that.
For sure. All right, so we find Terra, or we find Rema, right? Rema kills himself so that we can
you can see that power. You can gain his power. And then after you leave, you start talking about how you might get to the Empire. It's across the continent. It's on another continent, I think, to the south, and you don't think there's any way to get there on boat. And there's a hint that you could go back to Jador and maybe ask around to find out, and that's where you meet the impresario.
Yes, of the opera.
At his big old house, and you find out that...
No, that's not his house.
It's not his house.
No, that's, I think Auser is his name.
That's right. Oh, and we forgot to mention he has an art gallery. Hauser.
Yeah.
Including a painting of Ultros, which is foreshadowing.
And one of my favorite villains in a video game ever.
I wasn't super into him until the section that we're about to discuss, and then I was like, okay, this guy is awesome.
Yes.
You find out a letter on the floor, and Maria, the famous opera singer, has received this letter from a fellow just called the Wandering Gambler. Was it the Wandering Gambler? What do they call him again?
Wandering.
Yeah, the Wandering Gambler. Saying that he's going to, depending on your perspective of this letter, either like pick her up or kidnap her during the opera to marry her. And I wasn't comfortable with how vague that was. But when you ask who he is, you get this cool little intro from the impresario, and you find out that he is a guy who likes to play blackjack and for some reason owns an airship. So you decide that you're going to go to the opera and try and catch this guy.
Yeah, so that you can use the airship
so you can get south and get to the Empire. That's right. Vector is the capital city for the Empire, right?
Yes.
But that's where the Magitech research facility is. And so you head to the opera, and this winds up being one of the coolest sections of the game.
It's amazing.
You find out. Yeah. You and I had heard that this was really cool before I played this game. It's just like one of those little chunks of gameplay that you've heard people talk about really positively. But in the previous scene, you find out Celis looks a lot like this Maria lady. I'm just now realizing you never find out what happened to Maria. She didn't show up to the opera. Oh, you make the plan with the impresario for Celis to go.
Yeah, you play with the impresario to put Celis in there.
Good.
Who,
okay,
by some miracle, can sing like an opera singer.
Can sing her ass off. Yeah, like you find out in this little this neat little section that for some reason Celis just like naturally has pipes and can sing all the music perfectly. So on top of looking like her, she is like an excellent soprano somehow.
Right?
Yeah. So you head to the opera. It's got this, when you're in the lobby, it has this cool like little ragtime theme that they play, which I thought was really fun. And then they start the opera, and the music is freaking amazing.
It is outstanding. Let's talk about this for a second.
Yeah, it's all coming off like a little SNES sound chip. I can't remember what the technology is exactly, but like they make it sound believable. It's really, really cool. Oh,
believable, man, and the quality of the tunes, like they're so good.
It's not. They aren't doing voices because voices sound really tinny and stupid when they're played over the SNES hardware. But they're the instruments they're using to replace the voices sound really good, and the arrangements behind them are so nice. It's so good. And then when they bring you back, like you get the introductory session where really you're just watching the beginning of the opera. And then you get and then when you come back and you have Locke and like the other people in the party just sitting there in the audience, you get this really cool, like slowly building like string music that fits the scene so well because you're waiting for this heist to start and there's a lot of tension and you're trying to come up with a plan. It's so good. The atmosphere for the scene is just top notch.
Yeah, and you have that crazy conductor guy with the orchestra and the down the bottom.
Yeah, there's some really cute sprites in there too. It's so good. And Locke has to go talk with Celis, and and he encourages Celis to read the script again, and this winds up being like a memorization game where you have to read over her lines and then remember them.
Which is annoying because if you don't pick it soon enough.
They say the opera goes bad and you have to come back the next day.
And he's like, you only have 2 more times.
Oh, crap. Last night was a real stinker, but I guess everybody's here again. Let's do it. It's so good. When you do get it right, you go to the next session, and that's when Ultros shows up again. And I need to find his line because this is one of my favorite things.
Well, we're labeling the podcast episode this one as my favorite line, and that's if you happen to talk to Salmon as you're in the balcony, as you're in the opera house, he will say the following: "Why is everybody singing?"
Which makes sense because this dude has just been living in the woods, getting wicked good at karate. Although the man does have an appreciation of fine plates, so I don't think he's not completely uncultured. That's not fair.
So how can he have an appreciation for fine plates and not know what opera is? It's just
I don't know. When Ultros shows up, his line is, "I owe you one, so I'm going to jam up your opera," which could be a line from Salieri and Amadeus. And then you find out his plan, which is even better. His plan is to slowly, over the course of 3 or 5 minutes, I can't remember how many, push an exactly 4-ton weight labeled 4T off of the rafters onto Celis. And he gets there and he's going to start pushing it. And then he's like, "Oh man, it's heavier than I thought. It's going to take me a while." And then the clock comes up and you have like 3 or 4 minutes to get to him. I almost didn't get to him in time.
We know how you do with that systems, man.
Yeah, I have a hard time my first time through. But for me, the hard part was the rafters where the rats are. You have to get through these rafters, and there are these little rat sprites that you have to fight if you ever overlap with them. And I don't think you can run away. I think you have to kill them each time you run into them. And I kept not understanding where how big the collision areas were for the sprites. So I would think I was getting past them, and then they would start the battle. So I only got to.
See, I moved really quick, and I killed them all.
Okay, I didn't. Yeah, I was trying to be sneaky, and I probably should have just run through because I wound up fighting them all anyways, even though I was being sneaky. I got there with a few seconds left, and then you have a boss fight with Ultros, and if you win, everything goes well. And
sort of. And by goes well, you mean everybody falls off of the rafters,
right? But they improvise. That's
right. Could you imagine if that happened in a real life opera? The octopus monster.
They fall in, but your party starts improvising to make it seem like it's part of the show, and the audience seems into that. And I believe,
even though they've seen the show 1,000,000 times, some of these people.
Yeah. Maybe your previous night. Well, remember, in my version, or maybe both of ours, we did a really bad job the first time.
But the only way they would know it was a bad job is if they knew the opera. It's the Carmen of Final Fantasy VI.
Is it? Okay, that makes sense.
Everybody knows.
That's right. The opera itself is actually really cool. Just playing around on YouTube, I've seen videos of people actually singing it and stuff.
Yeah, and then I sent you that recording of the Black Mages doing their version.
That's right. Yeah, that was really good.
And the Black Mages is, the Black Mages are? That's Nobuo Uematsu's rock group. The guy who wrote the music, that's his group.
Oh, wow.
He plays organ in that group.
What?
Yeah, man.
That's amazing.
I know.
Okay. Oh, that's really cool. I'll look at more of this stuff later.
Oh, it's amazing.
I think this is the point that Setzer shows up, right?
Yeah.
The Wandering Gambler, his name is Setzer. I kept saying Seltzer over and over again, but that is not his name.
It should probably be Seltzer, though.
Yeah. He shows up and he kidnaps Celis just as everybody anticipated, but your group follows him up and winds up boarding his airship.
Yeah.
And then you burst. He wants to marry Celis. Even after he finds out that she's not Maria.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right.
Which seems
kind of desperate.
I want to believe this guy wasn't planning a kidnapping, but Maria never shows up, so I'm still a little worried. But in spite of the fact that this guy is allegedly a professional gambler, he is easily fooled by a 2-sided coin. So that's how you wind up getting him to join your party. Well, he doesn't join your party yet. Yeah, he just he agrees to take you to Vector, which he does. You don't have any control over the ship. It just like shows you a scene where it makes you travel over. The way the overworld worked for this game, I imagine must have been like pretty revolutionary at the time. But yeah, you get to Vector, which is the capital of the Empire. And you are able to break into the Magitech facility with the help of some old dude standing by a box who is a sympathizer with the returners who agrees to distract the guards for you.
And without any prompting, too, he's just like, I'm a sympathizer.
I know who you are. And then your sprite kind of freaks out, which I thought was a nice touch. And then he's like, I'm a sympathizer for the returners. I'll go confuse these guards. And what does he do again? Does he just goes up and like, somebody's going to throw up. Yeah. That's right. He keeps acting like he's going to throw up and like everybody is freaking out. I thought that was really funny. Before I got his help, I actually ran into the castle. And you wind up running in. And the way that they keep you from going any further is they make you fight like this unkillable enemy that you have to run away from. Like you can hit it with magic or anything and you'll just do 0 damage. So you have to run. Yeah, but you have to get on the box and get into the rafters and you'll get into the facility. You break in and you work your way through the facility and eventually you meet Ifrit and Shiva. You fight them momentarily, but they realize you aren't enemies. And like the previous Esper that you met, they also decide just to kill themselves so you can use their power.
Right. And all this, I mean, what we forgot to address here is that we learned that Kefka is draining these Espers of their power.
But apparently you can't like completely absorb an Esper's power until they die and become Magicite.
Right. And it seems like they have to give it up of their own will?
That's what we've seen, but I don't think anyone ever explicitly says that.
The fact that these Espers are giving you their power, I think, is a really big deal.
It is.
And I don't know, and I guess, and the reason, you get the power from Rama because he wants you to help Terra. You get Ifrit and Shiva because you had already had Rema's power, and they thought because Rema gave you their power that you were trustworthy or whatever.
That's right. Yep, I forgot that bit. And you go into the next room, and I think then there's just a bunch of Magicite lying around.
It's like in a tube or something. Or
that's I can't. Right. But you collect it, and then you meet Sid.
Which, if you've played a lot of Final Fantasies, there is a Sid in every Final Fantasy.
There definitely was one in 15. There was a Biggs and a Wedge and a Sid and an Ifrit and a Shiva in Final Fantasy 15.
I'm trying to remember. There's not a summon thing in every Final Fantasy. I think in most of them after a certain point, yeah. But definitely a Sid in every one of them. And probably a Biggs and Wedge too.
But this guy is a researcher, I think the head of the lab. You find out that he has a pre-existing relationship with Celis.
Yes.
And knows her. Celis is a Magitech Knight. Did we mention that? We should mention that because you find out way earlier, but the reason Celis can use magic is that she has had some kind of weird like procedure done to her where magic drained from the Espers was infused with her body somehow, but that's why she can use magic.
But it's only limited. She can only use a limited amount of it because that's not how you get the Esper's power.
Right. Yeah, she wasn't actually given Magicite like she is at this point in the game. Sid is sympathetic to your cause and seems to some extent horrified by what's done, which is a little weird seeing as like he's the main guy in charge of doing it. But
the research, right.
I'm not going to question that right now. But he helps you escape and puts you on a minecart, and you get this really weird scene where like well,
hold on, we blew by the Celis thing.
Oh, hit me, tell me.
Remember, because Kefka shows up and Kefka insinuates that Celis has been planted in your party.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Kefka doing his thing. Like reacts to Celis saying like, "Oh, I see that you've infiltrated them like I asked you to," or something like that. Just to sow discord.
Right, but she doesn't outwardly deny it.
No, I guess she doesn't. Or you might be foreshadowing something that I don't see coming because I'm assuming that she isn't there for that reason.
But she did not outwardly deny it. Now she does sacrifice herself so that you can get away.
That's true. She does. Yeah.
So she does good work, but she never explicitly says that was the reason she was in the party.
What does she do exactly?
It's just something to do with like she does like some magic spell where she transports them elsewhere. Or
yeah, and you don't get to see where. So at that point in the game, you just know that Celis is gone, and you don't exactly know why. But then Sid helps you escape and puts you on like a minecart. And you get this really, really weird, like first person escaping down the tracks thing where you basically just like you see the visuals as you're driving and then it'll start a battle. and you fight a lot on your way out.
Yes. And there's the whole thing with the magic tag, and there's like a million boss fights in this whole thing. Like it's like boss fight after boss fight after boss fight.
And I didn't have too hard a time with it, but I was pretty stocked up.
No, not this one. Definitely the hardest thing so far for me has been the Narshe thing has been. That was a pain. But yeah, so you escape the Magitech factory.
Right, you wind up back on Setzer's ship. You get another boss fight there as they send up some machinery to fight you, and Setzer hops into your party at that point, and you get to find out that his skill is this little roulette thing, which I thought was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. But if you beat them, then you get back to, I think you go right back to Narshe, don't you?
Zozo, because she's still in the tower.
Zozo, that's right, because Terra's still there. You go back to Zozo, and Terra has a reaction to one of the Magicites that you have. And then you get a flashback, and you wake up as a character that you haven't seen yet. And you'll find out later that it's Maduin, that's right. And he is an Esper that one of the Magicites that you found belonged to. And you get to walk around the Esper world with him a little bit, talk to some characters, and you find out that he is an Esper who meets a human woman who finds her way into the Esper world. Eventually falls in love with her. They have a child who you find out is Terra. And then during one of the Empire's incursions into the Esper world, before they put up a barrier and cast the humans out another time, because I think this is the second time that they've had to cast the humans out.
Yes.
Terra and her mom are sucked out of the portal. And you get a scene of Terra and her mom landing.
As is Maduin.
Is he?
Yes, he is as well.
I didn't see what happened. That's right, but I didn't see what happened to him.
Because that's the reason his
Magicite was there. Oh, so he got captured and put in the facility.
Yeah, he got captured because that's seen right afterwards.
That's right. I keep forgetting that the Magicite's there because he's dead, so there was no happy ending there. Terra is picked up by, I think, directly by the Emperor himself after she gets sucked out. And that is a little bit of explanation of how she came to be in the Empire's control.
That literally brings us up to where
that's where we are. Yeah, that's exactly where we are.
Kind of overarching thoughts about this point of the game is, there's just so much variety and so much cool stuff always happening. I don't feel like I'm just traveling from place to place, just checking off a laundry list of shit. I feel like there's always something propelling the story forward.
There is. And they managed to make this map that you're on seem a lot larger and more dense than it actually is, which I appreciate. Yes. I also like that they've already given you the airship, which is something that I think in some role-playing games it takes a long time before you get your mechanism for traveling around the world.
Yes, quickly. And I think that you're going to figure out why they do that so soon. Okay. By the time we get through the end of this part of the playthrough that we're going to end at next time.
Oh, interesting.
And after playing this through the second time, because for me, when I play this game, I'm like, the map is very small.
Yeah.
How can they maintain this? And then I then after playing it retrospectively, I'm like, okay, this is why the interest maintains. So when we get through this part of the playthrough, I think you'll figure it out, why.
Okay, cool.
Things are paced the way that they're paced.
And for the listeners, what is the ending point of our next section?
We are going to go to when you get off of the floating continent.
Oh, weird. Okay, I look forward to that.
Yeah, so when we get through the end of the floating continent, it'll be very obvious where that stopping point is. Then that will be where we're going to talk through next time we record an episode.
But the last thing I'll say, at this point in the game, you have gotten enough, your characters have enough MP, and if you use the Magicite right, you'll have multiple party members who can cure. So it finally stops feeling like you need to have 50 potions or tonics with you at all times.
Yeah.
Now, you can have a few tinctures, and that's good enough.
Yeah. Now, what I will say though, in terms of that, is the attack magic is really only useful for 3 people.
Oh, why? Because of how many points they have into magic attack?
No. Because why would you use attack magic when you can use the Science Sword skill, which is going to do about 3 times more than any attack spell will do?
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
And same thing for Sabin, and then Edgar has the tools, so why would you ever use attack magic for Edgar? The people that it's really useful for is Terra, because she doesn't have a physical attack special.
But Terra, I guess, is never doing more damage with her magic than people like Sabin or Cyan are doing with their skills.
Right. And she's probably doing less. But she does have that morph ability where she morphs into the Esper, and then her magic is way more powerful.
Oh, I haven't tried that yet.
Oh, yeah. She could morph into that pink thing.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to keep playing around with it and figuring it out. I haven't been taking advantage of everything available to me as I've been playing the game, which is fine because it's not that difficult. But you have those once per battle Esper skills when you have an Esper equipped or Magicite equipped that I haven't been using.
I never use them because the physical attacks are so strong in the game. Right now, my Sabin's Pummel hits for almost over 1,000. And my Scion's, the first level Scion hits for over 1,000. Edgar's Chainsaw attack, almost 1,000.
I've been using so much of Sabin's area of effect fire skill.
Oh yeah, Fire Dance?
Fire Wave? Fire Dance or Fire Wave, yeah.
Yeah, I use that a lot. The only thing that with that one is I get the input right about 80% of the time. The other 20% is just frustration.
I always wrestle with how much I want to know the exact math of what's going on with the battle system, because I would like to understand it, but at the same time, maybe the game's designed to where you aren't supposed to know exactly how everything works and scales, but it's one of those things I struggle with when I play RPGs.
Interesting. Yeah, I never struggled with that. All I think is I'm very almost jock-like in my approach. Is get big, get strong, kill everything. That's my role. That's why I love grinding.
Yeah. I want it to fit in with the narrative and the role I'm supposed to be playing in the role-playing game. We'll see how long I can go before it catches up with me. But I haven't spent too much time grinding. I'm fighting as I go places.
What's your clock time?
13 hours, I think. What?
1642.
All right, and those extra hours are nothing but grinding, I guess.
But 100% grinding.
Yeah, we might have very different experiences. That'll be interesting. We'll talk about that next episode.
For sure. Well, folks, all right. We're getting a little bit more traction in the world right now, so hopefully you're hearing this podcast and sharing it with your friends, sharing it with your family.
Please do share it. Please do retweet us. We're at @cast_roll on Twitter. All those likes and retweets and shares, we appreciate them.
Yeah, and we're also on Facebook at Roleplaying GamesCast. You can email us at roleplayinggamescast@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, Roleplaying GamesCast. Like us, retweet us, share with your friends, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Google Play, whatever source you use to listen to podcasts.
We've even got a website up now, roleplayinggamescast.com.
But we hope you're enjoying. We hope if you've got any comments or things you want to share, email us, tweet at us, comment on the Facebook page, send us a message. There's ways to get to us, folks.
Thank you very much.
Take it easy.